everyone. Welcome to High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, and I am your host, Steve Rozenberg. This is a business podcast show where we talk about real business, real life, and real situations. Here's the thing. Building a business is great, but if you're building a business for the wrong reasons, or you're building the wrong business for you, does it really matter? I mean, so many people, when they're building a business, they don't understand why they're doing it, and they really don't know how to do it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we all know that there's no rule book when it comes to building a business. I mean, it's not like somebody comes to you and says, hey, you want to build a carpenter business, roofing, construction, doctor, whatever it is you do. There's no rule book or manual specifically for your business and your market and for your geographical area. It doesn't exist. So what do? Well, we hunt and peck and we try to figure out what is the best way to build our business for us, specifically to somehow eke out some money to make more money than we did when we were an employee for someone. And then we just hope and pray that it's going to be bigger than when we started. But most people that I've talked to over the years is nobody really has a plan for that success. I mean, they don't know how they're going to do it. They just kind of think magically it's going to happen. Like some fairies are going to sprinkle dust on them and they're somehow going to have this magic in their business. But the reality is we all know that's not going to happen. But I've learned over the years, and I'm going to share with you right now, what is that recipe? How can you be successful? I've learned from building businesses is there are 3 things that you can do to actually be successful. And if you follow this recipe of these 3 things, you will be well on your way to growing a business, being successful, doing everything that you need to do. So the 3 things, number 1 is monetization. This is getting the freaking money. And I'm going to go into these in detail. Number 2 is admin. This is the systemization of your business. And then number 3 is the scalability and saleability. So let me first start with number 1. Number 1 is monetization, right? This is getting the freaking money, right? So what is this? This is lead gen. This is sales. This is conversions. This is repeat customers and referral customers. Now, you got to understand, sales and marketing is the most essential thing to building a business. Many times people think that the best thing that you could do is be the best operator. You make the best widget. And so because you make the best widget, you think that everybody is going to want to use you. But the reality is that's not true. You don't need to have the best product. Sadly, you need to have the best marketing. I mean, I'll give you an example. Let's say you wanted to create a hamburger stand and you make the best burgers in town. Everyone loves your burgers. And you decide that you are going to go ahead and you're going to go up against McDonald's, right? Well, the question I have is, who do you think is going to have a better marketing machine to bring people in? You, who makes a better burger, or McDonald's, who has a better marketing machine and a better conversion machine? So sales and marketing is essential to making your phone ring. The reality is if your phone is not ringing, you're going out of business. You just don't realize it yet. And you've got to realize that making your phone ring, that is essential to growing your business. The thing you want to think about when it comes to marketing is you want to be that go-to brand. So for example, in the spa industry, we always think of jacuzzi. When it comes to tissues, we always think of Kleenex. When it's your industry, do people think of you? If they don't, then I would say you have a marketing problem. Now, once they call you, are you turning them into clients? If you're not, well, then you have a sales conversion challenge. So again, remember, you have marketing first and then you have sales. And if you don't understand the two, you need to understand that those are vital to getting the money in. Having money doesn't solve problems, but I'll tell you what, having money coming in solves a lot of immediate needs for your business to be able to grow and scale so that you can hire the right people. So always know that if you have problems in your business and it's a money problem, look to sales and marketing. And most people who start a business don't think of sales and marketing as the most important thing. They think having the best system or the best widget or the best operation. And while yes, that's important, the first thing you really need to think about is what is the strategy to create the number 1 marketing machine. So for example, when you talk about marketing, the one thing I want you to think about is you want to identify your target market. When I say that is you got to think, okay, yes, you got to get the money, but more importantly, you got to get the right money. How do you make sure that you're getting the right people to call you? First thing I would say is if you already have an existing database of customers, grade your customers. I grade them A, B, C, and D. And now you can figure out which are the ones that you really want to work with, because we all have the ones that we don't want, and those are D clients. So a D client is the one who calls, they're always complaining, they're always taking up your time. They normally are the cheapest clients that you have, but those are the ones that you're doing business with. Those are the Ds. First of all, you need to learn how to fire those Ds. Next thing you got to do is grade the Cs. Now the Cs are either cheap or they take a lot of time, but not normally both. So the Cs are tolerable because they pay the bills and they're okay. Now the Bs are great clients. They pay their bills. You never hear from them. They're just happy-go-lucky and they're easy to work with and you really enjoy working with them. And they're very quiet. You don't hear much from them. You don't talk to them. They just pay their bills and they're gone. The As. Now the A's are just like the B's, except they're evangelical for you. They're always thinking about you and they're raving fans. You're always getting referrals from your A's because they just love you and they believe in you. The key is to figure out how to create the B's into A's so that they all become raving fans. Then what we do is I suggest is we take your A's and B's, and the best thing to do from that is we create the marketing strategy around them. Meaning, okay, what are their challenges for the A's and B's, and what solutions does our company provide? Once you can do that and you can identify what the problem and solution is, now you're going after your specific target, the A's and B's. The C's and D's, give them to your competition. You don't need them. Give them to someone else. The A's and B's are where we want to be, right? And then once we get the A's and B's, we say, okay, how do we get them to keep buying from us, right? That's the lifetime of your client. How do we get the cash register to keep on ringing so that we get more and more A's and B's to keep buying from us? And then again, like I said earlier, create a referral strategy for them so that they can refer people to us. That's the most important thing. So again, number one is monetization. This is getting the freaking money, getting the right money, and making your phone ring so that you are the number one brand that everyone thinks of when it's time to do business and they have an issue. They go, you know what? I'm going to call that person because I always know of them. I've heard about them. People have referred me to them. That's who I'm going to use. So number one is monetization. Number two, this is systems. This is the administration part of your business. If you looked at it, this is kind of like looking under the hood of your company. Now, a business, the definition as I was taught of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that runs without you. So let me explain what that means. Commercial, profitable enterprise is number one. That's the monetization side of the business. Runs without you is the part that has systems, right? It's a systemized business that is all on policies, procedures, structure, and systems. That's running without you. And then lastly, you have to have a sale date for your business. The reason you have to have a sale date, and I'll talk about this in a minute, not to have to sell your business, but more importantly, you have an asset that runs without your involvement, because that's truly a saleable asset. If it's not something that you could walk away from for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, well, you don't own a business, you own a job. And you got to make sure that you understand that you want to create a business that runs without you. The way that you do that when you're creating your systems, every business normally has anywhere between 8 to 11 processes and systems, right? Maybe it's marketing to a new client, then it's converting that client, then it's processing that client, and then it's servicing that client, maybe paying the client or the vendor, contractors. So you normally have 8. I recommend that you take those 8 to 11 and you systemize them. So you basically put them out in a flow chart. Then what you got to do is you got to automate them. So you've got to automate as much as you can through technology, through systemization, anything you can do to streamline it. And the last thing I suggest is you outsource, right? You outsource either to a third-party company or to an existing employee in-house or maybe a virtual assistant. But every business should be looked at where you're looking at your systems between 8 and 11. Okay. And what you want to do is you want to think about, okay, how do I systemize it? How do I automate it? And then lastly, how do I outsource it? Because this is so important to being able to scale your business so that it runs without you. I mean, who here, I'm sure you would love to have a business that just runs without you because it's automated, because you know, without a doubt, you know, every single time it's going to run based on systems and not just through good times. Here's the thing. Systems operate on bad times too. And people don't really think about the bad times, especially when you're starting a business. You're always thinking everything's going to go great and you create systems for good times. But how about dealing with things in an emergency, right? When you're dealing with things that go wrong. Now, I know, and many of you probably know my history of being an airline pilot for the last 30 years, being a commercial airline pilot, flying a Boeing 777 and 787. We deal with emergencies probably different than you do. The average person, when you have an emergency, maybe your customer, threatens to fire you or maybe sue you. And, your kind of heads are going to roll and don't mess up my company. And how dare you, do that to my company, and you better start being correct. That's how a lot of people handle their business, right? They puff up their chest, they get real tough with their employees, and they start threatening their job, which is their livelihood, which is one of the worst things you could do because you're basically making withdrawals of trust out of them. But that's another podcast. When you are dealing with an emergency, when we as pilots deal with an emergency, there's 4 things that we do. And this is ingrained in us no matter what. And if you're not writing down, I would suggest you write this down because this has been trained to us by my airline, by Boeing. It is proven to work. And if you handle emergencies this way in your business, you will be able to systemize things much, much more successfully. So the first thing that you do when you're dealing with an emergency, believe it or not, is you take a breath. Just take a breath and relax. That is the first thing you do when you're dealing with an emergency when it comes to anything going on. I don't care if we have an engine on fire. I don't care if we have smoke in the cockpit. We have an electrical fire, hydraulic loss. Gear will not come down. It does not matter. We take a breath. Next thing we do is we establish roles and duties in the cockpit. I'm flying the aircraft. You run the checklist. You talk to air traffic control. And you get on the phone and get in touch with maintenance control and let the passengers know what's going on. Everyone go. So someone has to be the expert. Someone has to be in control. Whoever's flying the plane continues flying it, and you establish roles and duties. That's number 2. Next thing we do is, let's say we have an engine on fire. Once everyone comes back and we regroup, we say, okay, now let's identify what is actually going on. I see the left engine on fire. Does everyone agree the left engine is on fire? We all look out the cockpit. We look at the FD engine and we say, yep, it is on fire. Okay, great. Now let's confirm it. We look on the message in the indications in the cockpit and we go, okay, left engine fire, left engine this, left engine thrust reverser. Okay, yeah, we definitely all agree. We identified it and now we confirmed it. We have an engine on fire. Okay, good. Now we know what the problem is, okay? Believe it or not, the reason we do this is there's many times that you will know the left engine is on fire, but your brain will tell you it's the right engine and you will jump into action doing the wrong thing and you shut down the wrong engine. And now you just went from a problem to a catastrophic loss. And the reason we do that is, yes, because it has happened in the past. And that's why it's now a training regimen that we all identify and confirm the problem. Now, next thing we do is we come up with solutions. Okay. We work the solution. Okay. I'm flying the aircraft still. You get out the engine fire checklist. You get into air traffic control, get us a place to land and make sure they have crash and rescue and roll the trucks. And you talk to the passengers, let everyone know what's going on and get in touch with the flight attendants, let them know. Now we're working towards a solution. When we land the plane and we get on the ground and we debrief and we have all the powers that be, that may be where we start talking about what's going on. Imagine you're on an airplane, you're flying somewhere and you look outside and you see an engine on fire. And you are sitting there watching this engine melt off the wing. And next thing you know, the cockpit door flies open and you've got 2 people yelling at each other and screaming about whose fault it is. It's your fault. You didn't check the engine. No, it's your fault. You didn't check the oil. Don't blame me. I was on the right side. You handled the left side. And everyone's blaming each other, but no one's actually putting out the fire. How comfortable would you be watching this happen, knowing that your life is in their hands and they're not even paying attention to fixing the problem? Unfortunately, that's how many businesses operate, right? And I'm sure, I know when I first started my business, I was guilty of that as well, right? Everyone has ego and pride. And the challenge is at the end of the day, you've got to work towards a solution. It's kind of like when you hit a bump in the road, right? You're driving down the road, you hit a big pothole. You don't stare in the rear view mirror at the pothole. You've got to keep driving. That's why a windshield is so big and a rear view mirror is so small. So you got to make sure that you're always looking towards that, because I will say, as a pilot, as an airline pilot, we don't get the opportunity to go let off steam, go out and have a smoke break, relax a little bit and decompress. When we have a problem, we have to deal with it as it comes. We don't get the opportunity to do these kinds of things. And we have to deal with it because we still have to fly and land the aircraft. So think about that. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that your situations and your problems are not as catastrophic as us, but I would say having an engine on fire at 40,000 feet over the Pacific Ocean is probably a little bit more serious than maybe you losing an account or maybe somebody not paying you a bill. Sometimes you got to put things into perspective, and you got to understand that, an emergency is what you make of it, right? And again, we deal with all emergencies the same way, and you could probably deal with them that way so that you could systemize your business so that when anything happens, right, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about this next when it comes to scalability and salability. Now, scalability and salability is how you train, right? How you grow your business. Remember I said earlier, you need to build your business with a sale date. And the reason you got to build it with a sale date is you've got to make sure that you have an end destination, right? When you get in your car and you're driving somewhere, you know where you're going, and you probably know what time you need to be somewhere. That's an end destination. When you build your business, doesn't it make sense that you have the same thing, that you know where you're going and what that end destination is? Don't just get in your car and drive and figure, I'll figure out what I'm going to do once I get in the car. You're going to run out of gas. Same thing in a business. You don't just start a business to start a business. You start a business so that you could build it so that it runs without you and has a sale date. The sale date gives you a finite date in time that you're working towards, and then you can work everything backwards on that sale date. So always have a sale date. And the next thing a lot of people don't think about is, how do you build your business so that it can run without you, but it can do it in multiple markets? Meaning if you wanted to open up in a new market or a new city or a new state, could you do that? Could you take your business and put it in a new city and within hours or weeks have it upright and running? Because if you can't, well, I hate to say this, you don't have a business, you have a job. And let's talk about how you scale a business for a second. You want it to be where I could sit in your business, walk in without talking to anyone, sit down in any position, and be able to do the job and be able to do what is most important in the business with the systems manual, with the checklist, with training, so that I don't have to talk to anyone and it's just done. Because again, that's how you know you have a business and you know that it's trained correctly. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to ever scale, and you're always going to be the one that has to jump in and do things. I believe that the business needs to operate without you. The business needs to have its own DNA, not you saying, oh, well, I'm the only one that can talk to this client. I'm the only one that can talk to this contractor. That's not a business. You're basically being the bottleneck in your business. Here's the thing. If you don't have a business model that you could scale and grow and run without you, I hate to say this, but you have two options. Option number one is just like an airplane running out of fuel, you will run it into the ground. That's number one. Option two is you basically work there until you drop dead. That's your exit, right? Those are your two exits if that is your plan. And look, I know that we don't build businesses to run them into the ground, and we don't build businesses to do it until the day that we die. We build businesses because we want a lifestyle. We want a strategy. We want things like that. And if you're not doing that, what are you doing? And how are you scaling this thing to go? And you've got to remember that, when it comes to building a business, right, you may have a great idea. Transferring that down to everyone else is very, very important. And you've got to remember that, I'll give you an example. When you're flying an airplane, right? When you go to book a flight, you probably have a favorite airline. Maybe it's the miles that you get, or it's the city you live in. But it's the airline that you enjoy flying, and you always try to fly them first, right? That's your airline of choice. There's also the airline you don't want to fly, the one that you don't want to have anything to do with, you don't want to deal with, and you do not want to fly them at any cost. Maybe they're the cheapest. Maybe you had a bad experience with them, right? One airline, you've got a great experience, great memories. One airline, you have a horrible experience, horrible memories. My question to you in your business is, which one are you? Are you the company that everyone wants to do business with? Are you the company that everybody wants to be a part of? Or are you the company that nobody wants to do business with? Because even if you're the cheapest, they don't want to deal with you. Unfortunately, that's the reality that many businesses have. And the reality is you need to think about what kind of business you're running. So again, you want to make sure that you have the monetization. This is the sales and marketing. This is making the phone ring. This fixes all the short-term, immediate problems. Next thing you got to do is you got to have the admin. This is the systemization of your business. This is how you deal with good things and bad, just like dealing with emergencies. You got to understand how to deal with those. And then lastly, you have to have the scalability and salability. This is the training of your business so that I could come into your business, sit anywhere, and know exactly what to do by not talking to anyone, I can pull out the manual and I can start doing all the tasks and duties, and I can have KPI metrics that will tell me if I'm doing the good job or bad job. These are the things that you always need to think about when you're building a business, because this is what it takes to actually be successful. So again, just think of these things when you're doing the business. Why did you start the business? What is the exit of the business? Start with the end in mind and work it backwards. If you did that with your car and you just got in your car and drove, what would you do? You probably would not get in your car and drive if you didn't have a final destination. I mean, you might, but I doubt you would. Same thing with your business. Don't start a business if you don't have an end date and you don't have a destination and you can't share that with everyone else. So hopefully this helps. This is High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, and I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. We'll talk to you guys next time.